Hello and welcome. The big breaking story at this hour. N. Chandrasekaran of TCS and Ralph Speth of Jaguar and Land Rover have been elevated to the board of Tata Sons. This was something that we broke right here on CNBC TV18 first. An exclusive and an official statement has come out. In fact, Ratan Tata, the interim chairman of Tata Sons, has also given a statement saying that this is in recognition of their exemplary leadership in their companies. Nisha, who got the details of the press release before the press release came out, significantly before, is here with the details. This is important, putting into perspective the fact that they need loyalists with them at this point in time. They need old Tata hats at this point in time. And let's not forget, N. Chandrasekaran is one of the rumored contenders, completely media speculation, but rumored contenders to be one of the players that is being looked at to be the possible successor as well.
But Kritika, it can be also taken as probably rewarding the top performers of Tata Group, and that's the kind of professionalism and the reward that Ratan Tata wanted to bring in as soon as he joined and rejoined as the interim chairman of Tata Sons. And that he clearly said that leadership position is going to be important. We are not going to also touch the businesses. The transition should not affect the businesses of the group, and that leadership should be maintained. And these are probably the candidates, Ralph Speth at JLR as well as N. Chandra at TCS. They both have brought that kind of a leadership and leadership position for their companies as well. So probably on the basis of performance of the companies and of these CEOs, these two appointments have been made. Also, I did gather from sources that Ratan Tata, as soon as he came in, wanted to enrich and expand the Tata Sons board so that there is more professionalism, more good ideas and strategy in place in terms of Tata Sons board. Remember, there is also a thinking that probably the Group Executive Council that was constituted by Cyrus Mistry was taking away a lot of powers and strategizing on behalf of Tata Sons board. So it is probably also reinstating the faith and authority in Tata Sons board by bringing in the shareholders of Tata Group as well, the ones like N. Chandrasekaran, who has been at the helm of TCS for so long. And in fact, a large part of the net worth of the Tata Group and the value in Tata Group lies with TCS. So he is one person who has been probably rewarded on the basis of performance, and so is the case with even JLR CEO Ralph Speth. So these two appointments probably could be purely on the basis of the performance and the reward given on the basis of performance. But nonetheless, it expands the board now in the last few months from the time Amit Chandra, Venu Srinivasan as well as Ajay Piramal were brought in as outside professional thinkers, and the think tank was created, and now the inside resources who have performed well. It could be a very heady mix and a very good thinking cap and think tank for Tata Sons going forward to take forward the strategy of the group.
Let's not forget the fact that these are in a way and have been, Tata Motors and TCS independently have in a way been jewels to Tata Sons' crown in a way. So the fact is that you are honoring, as you said, you are honoring the best performing CEOs, you're honoring the loyal hats, so to speak, and also you are doing justice to the most important group companies, at least in terms of revenues, in terms of expansion, in terms of focus, strengthening the core focus that you have thereby as well, and bringing in sectoral experts onto the board. We'll get you some sectoral comments as well, but let's get a market expert going as well. Prakash Devan is here with us. Prakash, what do you make of this? We now have N. Chandrasekaran, the CEO of India's largest IT company, now joining the board of Tata Sons. Two questions. What does this mean for TCS? What does this mean for Tata Sons? Do you expect TCS's presence or position in Tata Sons to be expanded thereby?
Well, it's more symbolism when it comes to TCS getting the recognition. But what it does is a couple of things, Kritika. One is it immediately, the swiftness, the rapidity with which the decision has been taken is definitely going to blunt all the naysayers who believe that the board was constituted mostly of, a family orientation and things like that. This is as blue-blooded as it can get in terms of professionalism. And getting somebody like Mr. Chandrasekaran means that you get one of the cash generators in the group and the future cash generator or the potential cash generator from Tata Motors getting representation, which means performance and meritocracy is established. So that's a very clear signal that comes out. For Tata Motors and TCS, they've always had a very significant role to play in the group fortunes. So I don't think this will any which way change that. It just kind of reinforces that particular sentiment. But to the street, it's a positive move because you get good practices, a very strong orientation on merit and performance and results coming into the board. And the board gets back its sanctity, as possibly Nisha was trying to allude to, saying the board is finally going to be driving it in terms of strategy and execution. Because these are hands-on executives. You're not talking about only people who are think tank, part of a think tank or part of just directional inputs. These are hands-on people who have transformed large businesses in terms of manpower, resource allocation. I mean, TCS talks about what quality of manpower that they have, the consultants that they have. It's distinctly one of the largest piece in terms of the HR angle also.
Prakash, the point that Nisha made and the point that you made right now, do you think if there was any amount of respect lost in the market, any amount of concern in the market, could this now allay those fears that investors or markets would have had with respect to Tata Group stocks?
See, I don't think the market will believe that this is a very conclusive, damage control exercise. This is probably one of the key changes that Ratan Tata has brought about. But what it does is it sets the expectations in a very firm footing for some professional CEO also to be eventually identified within the next 4 months as they've announced. So, when they can get people like these onto the board, it very clearly also makes it a possibility that you could have a professional CEO running the entire board. And it could be any of them now. So, that is something which the street is going to definitely look forward to. And the levels of dismay are going to come down dramatically.
But Prakash, in fact, I wanted to also highlight the point that here the beneficiary is clearly the Tata Sons board and not so much as TCS, I would say, because having a TCS CEO on board at Tata Sons gives a lot of clarity, and not just clarity, probably comfort, not just to markets but also to the credit rating agencies and also the lenders, because all this while Tata's credit rating overall has been considered, or at least the goodwill has been maintained, because TCS is cash rich, whether or not that money can come in at any point. But that comfort level is always there at the back of the mind. And now he being elevated to a Tata Sons board gives much more comfort to the market at large.
Well, absolutely, Nisha. So it's very, the empathy levels change dramatically when you have a CEO from a promising business also on the group board. And remember one thing, when Mr. Ramadurai was heading TCS, he was always seen as a big contributor to the board decision in terms of strategy and, directional inputs. So that's the kind of role that a relatively younger CEO from TCS can now play. But I don't think the idea is to reward TCS or Tata Motors from that angle, but it's actually to dip into the best of professional talent that's available and reaffirm the groups.
Absolutely. That's completely the point, Prakash. And that's perhaps what, exactly. We may not see markets take a complete heart from that, and this may not be an absolute damage control, but this is pure-blooded professionalism, as Prakash was saying. And Chandrasekharan and Ralph Speth appointed to the Tata Sons board. And in fact, TCS has given us a statement saying that TCS board has approved the move and that N. Chandrasekharan will be the non-executive member or one of the non-executive members of the board. Remember, you heard it first on CNBC TV18. Thanks, Nisha, for joining in with that. We'll have to take a very short break on that note. Shireen Bhan with a special discussion will join in 2 minutes. You don't want to miss that.
Well, CNBC TV18 was the first to break the bitter boardroom battle at Tata Sons at 6:24 p.m. yesterday, and today the fight threatening to spill into the courtroom. Good evening and welcome to this special show. Here are the 5 big news breaks that we've broken today. Right at the top, the big CNBC TV18 exclusive. The Palonji Group is gearing up for a legal battle. Sources say the Mistry camp will claim oppression of minority shareholders under the new Companies Act. At number 2, Tata Sons are getting ready for a legal battle as well. The Tata Sons board has filed caveats at the Bombay High Court and the Company Law Board. This will mean that Tata Sons will be informed in advance if there is an injunction. At number 3, Ratan Tata is back in the driver's seat. He met with CEOs of individual group companies today, and Ratan Tata has asked CEOs to seek Cyrus Mistri's resignation from the board or chairmanship of individual companies. Number 4, sources say actions of some members of Cyrus Mistri's chosen advisors at the Group Executive Council did not conform with the Tata Group's code of conduct. And finally, sources say that Mistry was drawing up a plan to go after loss-making companies, which could have led to some friction. We are going to be breaking another crucial development with Arun Giri, who's been on top of this story. That's coming up for you in just a bit. Joining me today on the show, Rajiv Kumar, Senior Fellow, Center for Policy Research, Saurabh Mazumdar, Editor at Forbes magazine, Morgan Witzel, the author of Tata, The Evolution of a Corporate Brand, also joins me. But right up front, let's go across now and speak with the Council for Ratan Tata and the Tata Sons. Abhishek Manu Singhvi is here with us. Mr. Singhvi, thank you very much for joining us. I wanted to get your quick reaction on the legal angles and how you see this playing out. Can you take us through that very quickly, sir? I understand that you have limited time.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. I told your reporter that I am representing Mr. Ratan Tata and the group, the Tata Group, tomorrow, and therefore I am not able to speak on the merits. All that I have said is that it's a rather sad day because all these are very senior and respected and sober people. But everybody knows in this country that Mr. Ratan Tata has tremendous dignity and sobriety, and he acts only in the interests of the Tata Group. It is unfortunate that the entire board lost confidence in its earlier chairman, and therefore this action had to be taken. I am sure that statesmanship will win over the day, and we also note the statement issued by Mr. Mistry that he is not contemplating immediate legal action. Let us see how things pan out, but ultimately if nothing works out, the courts are always there. But I think there is it's not a case of, making a scoring debating points or I told you so's or put side remarks, etc. It's not a case like that.
Mr. Singhvi, you're saying that you represent the Tata Group and Ratan Tata and that the board lost confidence in Cyrus Mistry and hence it was perfectly within its right to take this action. But why the need for legal recourse or at least to mull legal options? As you pointed out yourself, and Cyrus Mistry had said that they have not sought legal recourse just yet, which leaves the option open. But you have decided to file a caveat in the Bombay High Court and the NCLT, sir. Why this move to the courtroom then?
I think the press is completely misunderstanding the caveat issue. Caveat is meaningless. It is only an advanced early warning system in case somebody wants notice of a potential action. Anybody can file a caveat. It means nothing. The trigger has to be at somebody else, and we note Mr. Mistry's statement that he doesn't intend to take immediate action. But the point is that in this, it's a very, it's an unfortunate reason. Nobody does it willingly, but if the board loses confidence, then it happens.
All right, Mr. Singh, we appreciate you joining us for a quick reaction. We leave it at that. Thanks very much. That is the Council for Ratan Tata and the Tata Group. They're talking about the legal options that they may pursue. But let's bring in Rajiv Kumar. Mr. Kumar, you joined us here on the channel when the news broke yesterday. Clearly, this is getting uglier as we speak. This is not just acrimonious, but this is headed perhaps the legal way as well. In light of the developments, and we've heard Tata insiders tell us that this is shareholder democracy. This is, the board taking a decision. We also understand that Cyrus Mistry was not given an explanation in the boardroom as to why this decision was taken. So it might be corporate democracy, but certainly reeks of poor corporate governance.
No, absolutely. And I think it's a very sad day for such an amazing brand constructed over 150 years with the dint of so many hard work of so many of his predecessors to come to this. Can you hear me, Shay?
Yes, hello? I can. Go ahead.
So it really is a very sad day that that the brand is going to be tarnished. There's no doubt, there is no doubt about that. And I really just hope that it is not dragged into the courts, because once it is, then we don't know what might come out. Because you mentioned corporate democracy, but democracy, shareholder democracy, but which shareholders are we talking about? I mean, after all, the Tata Sons shareholders, the shareholding is very highly, is concentrated, and so you might well think, you might well refer to, in some sense, shareholder oligarchy, if you like, rather than democracy, and shareholder, shareholder sort of bullying their way through. So my one point, Shirin, though, is that all of this could have been prevented if and only if the Tata Sons board had come out with a proper explanation as to why this amazing drastic step, precipitate step, has been taken. And in light of the fact that this has not been done, I think it doesn't show very well on the corporate governance style of Tata Sons at all.
You're absolutely right. There is no explanation that has been provided. But Rajiv Kumar, Ratan Tata meeting with CEOs of individual Tata Group companies today, telling them that he's coming back, in a sense, as interim chairman, was to avoid any sort of a vacuum, was to provide stability, also telling them that the decisions and the strategy that the group has followed will continue. But clearly there is anxiety within the top leadership of the Tata Group at this point in time. People are worried that what decisions may in fact come unraveling, what decisions may be second guessed now that Mr. Tata is back. What does that really mean from a business plan and a strategic perspective as well?
There are two different perspectives on this, Shireen. One is that, for example, of the 30 listed Tata companies in India and abroad, there are some which are such giants in their own sector in the global marketplace in the Indian economy that they probably will not be impacted at all by what happens in Bombay House, because they just will continue to sail along, and they probably are least impacted by the Tata Sons board, and they have their autonomy on their own. The second perspective, however, is that any such change at the top creates unnecessary uncertainties in the minds of the corporate leaders, which are themselves substantial people, as to whether such a fate could be meted out to them as well in the near future. So this breach of good corporate governance creates that kind of uncertainty, and I dare say loss of shareholder value, which is what Mr. Ratan Tata seems to have emphasized in his meeting with the CEOs.
Morgan, let me bring you in on this conversation. And now this is really going to be about rebuilding credibility, rebuilding trust, and that is going to be a significant challenge, even though Mr. Tata, in a sense, is back at the helm. And the question now about the success, and names being bandied about, the similar names did the rounds before Cyrus Mistry was brought in as well. But, the challenge for whoever comes in as a successor for Cyrus Mistry, given the atmosphere that stands so vitiated today.
Well, yes, I think you're absolutely right. The challenge is going to be one of rebuilding trust. And so the leader whom they pick this time is obviously going to be rather different from the leader they picked the last time, not just for the obvious reason that there's been this breakdown that you refer to between the chairman and effectively their chief shareholder, the head of the Tata Trust. But also times have changed. Things have moved on. There have been 4 years of change in the global economy. The Tata Group is in a different position than it was before. There's a whole bunch of other things out there that have to be looked at too. Plus, as you say, there is that issue of rebuilding whatever trust is being lost. I mean, I'm speaking from a European perspective. I don't take quite such a gloomy picture as some of your other speakers have about the issue of loss of trust. The main thing that is worrying people in the European companies of Tata here in the UK and Germany elsewhere is simply the uncertainty. It's what's going to happen next. The discussions with Krupp Thiessen about the future of Tata Steel, for example. Where are those going to go? Is there going to be a change of policy on those? And so employees and customers and suppliers of Tata's European companies are basically now just sort of sitting and waiting to see what's going to happen next. So another crucial factor here, I think, is going to be speed of response. A move to reassure the markets, a move to reassure employees and suppliers and other stakeholders that it will be business as usual at Tata. That's going to be every bit as critical, I think, as the choice of a new leader.
You're absolutely right. Before I get into a break, Rajiv, Kumar, let me ask you this, on possible contenders for Cyrus Mistri's position. The usual names, and we heard these names do the round 4 years ago when they were looking for a replacement for Mr. Tata, Indira Nui, Arun Sareen, and so on and so forth. But do you believe that, someone of that stature would really want to get involved with the Tata Group at this stage?
Well, I don't think so, simply because, the names that you've just mentioned are people with their own status, their own, their known name, their own market recognition, etc., and I dare say their own style of functioning. And if the chief shareholder would like to impose his style of functioning rather than only go by the results and the performance that the chief executive brings to the shareholder, then I think there's a huge conflict here. This is the core conflict in any company which is professionally managed between the shareholder and the manager. And the manager's responsibility is to deliver on something that has been agreed upon, which I think Cyrus Mistry had done. So given that, differences in style of functioning or management or legacy are the criteria for change of leadership, I don't think anybody who is who is at all capable or who has a stature would at this point of time really be running to get into the position of Cyrus Mistry.
Sort of a quick word from you on the likely contenders before I take a break.
Well, whoever is the likely contender very clearly has to keep the majority shareholder happy. That's a clear message which has gone down in this whole episode. You can't have your own agenda, rightly or wrongly, and go in a way which does not keep the 66% shareholder happy, satisfied and informed. So I clearly think that whoever comes in will have to, and of course I think the lessons have been learned, I'm sure, by the House of Tata themselves, and they will be much more clear and very clearly pick the person who they feel will clearly be on board with whatever strategic intent they have for the group as a whole. It's a massive group and it's not an easy choice.
It takes me back to the commentary that came in from Ratan Tata when they decided to appoint Cyrus Mistry, and what a glowing tribute it was from Ratan Tata for Cyrus Mistry, saying he understands the group well, he's been on the board, he knows our businesses, and there couldn't be anyone better to take the Tata Group forward than Cyrus Mistry, and look where we are 4 years down the line. Well, this is a story that will continue to play out. There are developments practically on the hour, if not every couple of minutes. Rajiv, Kumar, Saurabh Mazumdar, Morgan, Arun, Nisha, thanks very much for joining us. We will keep revisiting this story right here on CNBC TV 18. For now, thanks very much for watching.